My time to delegate community office in Connecticut.
That is right.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to point out that the idea of Keynesian economics is something that is in any way something that should not be used as the government, and to promote it as not an option in any way. We need to explore all of our options. To say that one option is somehow lesser than another, or to point out that it's not worked out in the past, is a ridiculous statement. And I would just like people to try and look at historical instances where it has, in fact, worked, considering that America survived after the 1940s. Thank you, and I yield the remainder of my time to delegate community, also from Connecticut.
Thank you, Sir Chair. Casey, American Connecticut delegation. I'd like to address a previous speaker's point, saying that the New Deal did nothing to save America. New Deal was the idea of government spending to resuscitate public settings, and World War II was what, in fact, saved the public sector. World War II was massive, massive, massive government spending. We didn't go into Europe and pickpocket the Nazis for all their Jewish gold. We spent massive money deploying Americans to instead build highways to go kill Nazis. That's what we did. That was government spending that saved this economy. And not only that, but forcing the government to pay for projects 1 year into a recession can kill any and all recessions. It has been proven in the Great Depression that the government making people tighten their belts in the midst of the early recovery only kills our recovery and makes the recession even deeper. I yield the remainder of my time to Chair.
Tyler Graham from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I reserve my right to reserve the remainder of my time to delegate Vic Mayor from Louisiana.
That is right.
I do stand in favor for this proposal for a couple of reasons. It's by time that we start to hold our government accountable for how they treat our American economy. It's our responsibility to make sure that we know when our taxes are going to be sent. It's wrong to keep leading off and making further generations go to debt and debt. Right now we are over $3 trillion in debt right now, and that's from our previous generations of government officials putting off our money to take for programs. Then it's time now that we start to hold our people accountable. You can keep getting out of debt, you can keep getting out of recessions and things like that, but it goes so far before the road runs out and there's no more money to be left and spent before our economy goes down for it. I yield the remainder of my time to Doug.
Does everybody remember the Bridge to Nowhere proposal by the Congress? Okay. If we keep on making projects that we cannot pay for, and we keep on asking China for money every single day, because China has to lend money and they buy our debt. Okay, if you look at it, if I want to build a 100-story tower and I don't have the money, should I build it now or should I wait? I bet I'll wait, because then I have the money to pay for it. And why should I tax American people when I know that if I do tax American people, I'm not going to get reelected again? Sure, it holds all of the representatives and senators in place that if you want to spend something on a pet project or anything else, then you are going to risk your political future if you do this.
Thank you, Sir Chair. I reserve my right to yield to Delegate Riaki from Minnesota.
That is right.
I was originally for this proposal because I don't know if many of you remember, but PAYGO is a policy that was enacted in the late 1990s. And it can be in part said to be responsible for the surplus we had at the end of the 90s. However, and this is a big however, I do not believe that in a time of recession, which we are still in, and while 2 wars are still going on, that we are still engrossed in, that we can enact PAYGO at this time. I believe there is a time and a place for PAYGO, and we have seen that in the right times it can work. But I do not believe that now is that right time. I'm for PAYGO because I do believe it helps eliminate tort, but that is a fact that Congress will have to deal with now while we are engrossed in 2 wars and in a recession, which PAYGO would not do much to help. It would not help us out of the recession. I don't know how PAYGO would affect the wars. How would we pay for the wars if we have PAYGO enacted? But that is why I cannot support this proposal, and I yield the remainder of my time to Riaki from Minnesota.
Riaki, Minnesota. First of all, I'd like to explain a little bit about economics. When we're in a recession, we have less money from taxes, and we need more money. We have to pay for programs like unemployment. We have to pay for things that help people out. If we have something like this, then we are going to spiral further and further into a recession until this economy collapses. If you're for this proposal, be ready for the next Great Depression. I yield my time.
Here, representing the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Sir Chair. I'd like to address some of the cons and the misconception about this proposal and complete non-understanding. First, when you're looking at PAYGO, it's unfortunate if you don't think it should be enacted. However, your president made an executive order in February, so there's nothing you can do about that. Unless you want to go to Senate when they are going to, or you can look at it later on, but that is not what's at this legislative assembly. Also, the reason why I don't agree with PAYGO is because it didn't put a time limit on it. However, this doesn't put a time ending, it only makes a beginning, holds people accountable. And although you might not find accountability important, you must also look into history. Those of you who didn't understand the New Deal's consequences, you can believe that it was the reason and the funding for our solve of our Great Depression. However, you can also look at when it was instigated, there was a 20.2% drop in overall GDP. And then when the income tax was cut by Hoover, it went up by 32.3%. So, if you believe that government-funded programs in that situation was the only cause, you must also look at all legislation containing that time period. But that is not what is at stake here. Stimulus packages still can be enacted. Actually, this doesn't affect any proposal or bill that will ever be made. It only changes the fact of what time the tax must start. And yes, you are completely right. They could start at 0.001% and it can increase over time. But that is not up to our decision. That is up to Congress and what they feel is best for the economy at that point in time. You do not know what the economy will be like in 10, 20, or 30 years. So you cannot decide what those people will be able to pay for and what they won't. You will receive your benefits. You will receive your packages. This does not prevent any proposal from ever being made. All it does is say when it must start. If you receive benefits now, and you start paying for it later, like 1870, 1923, 1963, I could go on with 15 different cases, and every single time, it's dropped by at least 9.7%. If you don't believe me, please go on the internet. Also, I'd like to point out that with this proposal, everybody keeps freaking out saying that they believe this is going to make Congress have to act quicker. This doesn't change the time that the proposal or the bill or the law that they're making at the time. All it says is that when it's passed, the tax part must say that it begins that year in which it is passed. This proposal goes on both sides. It was originally made by a Democrat, however, when presented by Congress, every Republican, including 8 independents, voted for this. However, the only people who didn't vote for this were Democrats. And the reason they said that was on Congress floor, someone said, "I'm sorry, this is important, but it will hurt my political agenda." He was then hurt by the newspapers, and I hope that you read that, because it's some of you old congressmen. I also like to say that when you're looking at this, if you look at this from a political bias and think that stimulus packages aren't important, that is not what is up to debate. You can make a stimulus package. Heck, you can cut taxes. All you must do is start within the year that you did that. Because future generations should not have to pay for what you did. You can decide that you believe in 20 years that they will probably have a better economy, so you can make an interest rate that in 20 years will be at 20%. That is up to your decision. But what isn't up to your decision is to receive benefits without paying anything. That is not my idea. That is an idea from George Washington, Andrew Jackson, Hoover, Reagan. And when Bush repealed this, it's because he needed funding for the war, which is true. But
Thank you. Your time has elapsed, and we will now...